honestly, some of my favorite clients end up being the husbands who come in and they're kind of scowling at me at first. And they want to make sure they're at this appointment to keep everyone under control. And by the end, they realize that I'm actually going to listen to them and what their budget is. And then they're like, oh, okay. And my favorite thing to hear is the wife will text me and she'll say, Bob told me just whatever Jess wants, just do what Jess says. Yeah. And so that's always the best thing, is turning someone's perception of interior design that like this can be reality.
Hey everybody, it's Ben Crawford with Red Barn Home Furnishings, and this is the Unexpected Podcast. And today I have with me Jessica Rine from Rine Revisions, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what she does and how she got started into her small business, and how she took her hobby and turned it into a wonderful, beautiful business that she's doing right now. How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
First of all, how do we know each other? You want to tell everybody how we know each other?
Yeah, we met through the hardware, right?
Yeah, through Hartville Hardware. We're both contributors, right?
Social media partners.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so we kind of both share totally different businesses, but both love the hardware and like partnering with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, at the beginning of every one of the podcasts, I want to give the guests an opportunity to talk about their business, what they do. So what is it exactly that you do with Rine Revisions? And, kind of just tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, I actually get this question all the time because people ask if I'm an interior decorator or I'm there's like different words for it. And they always ask, like, what do you prefer to be called? And honestly, and I don't even think this is like really a term, but I look at myself as like a design consultant. Like when I come in and work with, my hands are moving like crazy. I told you.
Nobody can see it.
I can.
It doesn't bother me at all.
So anyway, I come in and I help my clients achieve the look they want in their home.
Okay.
So it can be I've had clients build custom homes, and I walked alongside of them and helped them pick cabinets and flooring, and all the way to where right now I'm working on like a man cave closet.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's just a closet for my client's husband, and it's in her basement. It's nothing crazy, nothing big, but it's a big deal to them. So I kind of just come in and either help them hook up with contractors or pick materials and stay within their budget. Because I think the biggest thing is staying within budget. Once the budget goes out the window, of course, you built a house. Right?
Yeah. Building a house is a lot of fun. It would have been nice to have somebody who does what you do to kind of point us in the right direction when we get stuck. When our wheels started to spin, have a professional to kind of help us hone in on what we need to focus on instead of. There's just so much. It's so like much. Seeing the forest through the trees type of the thing, or the trees through the forest. I don't remember which way that one goes, but it would have been nice to have somebody that does that.
Yeah. A lot of times my clients, eventually they'll say that I'm like their marriage counselor too. Because
Yeah.
I do the tie breaking all the time,
Yeah.
Bob likes red walls. Sheila loves blue walls, And then I tell them neither are an option. So it's good.
Yeah, well, then that's funny you say that, because there was many times while we were building our house that my wife was frustrated with me because I was like, that's not on budget. We can't do that. So that's funny that you say that you're the marriage counselor for him. Now, another question I have is, do you listen to any podcasts?
I have actually never listened to a full podcast. I've never been on a podcast. I'm going to have to learn how to download this and listen to it.
So this is your first.
This is my first. Yeah. This is my first podcast experience.
Anything.
Yeah.
That's funny because last episode was our first episode. It was my first podcast. So we're right in there together.
It's huge though. I mean, how many people do you know that are like, oh, I listen to this guy, or I'm going to send you this one. I have friends all the time. I'm going to send this podcast, and I have all the intentions to listen to it. And I never do. And I'm always like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. It's the same thing when people tell me to read books. They'll be like, you got to read this book. And I'm like, oh, sure.
Yeah, I have the time for that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's funny. So to swing back to your clients, when you're working with your clients, do you think, building a trust with them, is that a really important step in the process? How do you do that?
So actually, I think that's where social media, I think you would agree that like the new marketing is social media, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything. And what's great about it too is I think that people can get a sense of who I am, because I try to do some personal, like about me and my family, my personality.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, you and I, that I feel like my music, like that I pick for a reel, a lot of times that's my inspiration. I hear somebody else, I've taken your songs before, I'm like, oh, I got to use that, you know? So like, I feel like that, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, oh my gosh, I love that song. And I feel like that's kind of just like a piece of who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
It creates a connection.
Yeah. And I feel like when I walk through the doors, the only clients I ever get nervous, I never get nervous anymore, but is the ones that don't follow me or like don't know anything about me. And they got my name, like Hardware is really good about giving out my cards and stuff, but a lot of them don't even know who I am. So, and they don't know what to expect, which I think, again, when it comes to home, anything with the home, I think people get stressed out because of the money.
Yeah.
They always think it's either going to be way more than it's going to be, or they think it's going to be way less. And it's always somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, it is. It's usually somewhere in the middle. The other thing I find stressful about that situation is sometimes when people spend a lot of money, they really wear you out on stuff.
Yeah.
You're bringing a very high quality product. And sometimes that expectation is, they even have a higher expectation than you have. And sometimes that creates the nervousness for me, especially with those customers, like what you said, that they're brand new people, they don't know what to expect from you. And you start talking about stuff and they're like, wow, okay. And you bring them something stunning and they're like, that's cool, but I was expecting something cooler. And it's like, well, how could I have achieved that?
Well, and I feel like with any customer service, especially in something like that we do, it's like reading people's minds, right? Like I just feel like my first appointment with anybody, it's like I'm trying to read them. I'm looking at their home. What's their style? What do they want their style to be? What am I using in this home? What are we trashing? But at the end of the day, I always tell people, I can't read your mind.
Yeah.
So the more words you use, feeling words helps me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you've come to that point where you feel comfortable to be able to tell people like that. I'm sure at the beginning of your story, it was a little bit different. So like, explain to us about how you got started into this. Were you a DIYer at home and it kind of blossomed from there? Or were you in a different direction? Like, how did you get started? And kind of give us a background of how you took your hobby and turned into this professional that you are now.
So I worked at PNC Bank actually for a long time in sales. Loved my job. But then Shane and I, after we got married and wanted to settle down and have kids, we decided that I was just going to stay at home with them.
Okay. So,
and if anyone out there's ever met me, I can't sit still more than 4 minutes. Titus has already changed my chair because I was moving too much in this podcast, and it was driving him nuts. So anyway, being home, I loved it. I have 3 little girls, and they were great, but it was hard because I just wanted to do something. So I did start doing a lot of DIY projects because now we're down to 1 income.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I can't go in and be like, oh, I'm going to buy this table from Pottery Barn. So I still want that table from Pottery Barn.
Yeah.
So I got good at researching stuff on Facebook Marketplace and, Pinterest and just figuring out how to do it myself. I know my limits. I'm not very, I wouldn't say that I'm like really crafty or, Shane's not a woodworker like you. Like we were very limited. So I knew what my limitations were. Anyway, also this time, probably about 5 or 6 years, I helped friends with building their houses, changing their spaces, helping them on their budget. And over again, the same thing kept coming up was people wanted to love their home. So I would come in and a lot of times just use stuff that they already had. Like, they don't like, people really struggle with bookshelves. So that's a good example of kind of a lot of things I did in the beginning was just coming in and styling their shelves and saying, okay, this is what we have. This is what we're going to use.
Yeah.
this is my budget. Maybe I have $100, to spend on their shelves, and really transforming it into a space that they love with their own stuff.
Yeah.
So my youngest went to preschool, and I was talking to some friends about going back to work or what I was going to do. And they said, well, that's great, but I think you need to do something in interior design.
Okay.
Which I always make the joke that every stay-at-home mom thinks that she's an interior designer. So, I was really conscious of that. I was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an Instagram page and just kind of put what I do out there. Things that I find on Facebook Marketplace, little DIY tricks, dupes I've found, what looks like Pottery Barn but costs $10 kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off. Essentially, the business part really took off. Like it just, I had people calling and wanting help with their homes. And it was, everything from a little bathroom to, again, helping them just make decisions. I always tell people my biggest strength is decision making. I make a decision and I keep moving. Very rarely, I'm just very decisive. So that helps when people like you are building a house and they go, how many decisions did you make building your house? 8 million a day,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, just tons and tons.
Yeah, what wall color, what this? And so I come in and I'm very, I think what I do well is I take their vision and say, okay, remember you want this kind of house. This is the style we need to stay when we're looking at cabinets and wall color. And so anyway, so I think it just was relatable to people. I've always tried to keep pricing manageable for people.
Okay.
I like my clientele. I have some very wealthy clients that I love, but I also have a lot of clients that don't have a ton of money and maybe live in an apartment that I love as well. Like I don't ever want to lose that aspect of it.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense because you enjoy working with people.
Yes.
And you don't want to pigeonhole yourself by just being with one clientele. You want a wide range.
Yes.
And that's a smart thing to do as a small business owner as well, is to make sure that you're, I guess, diversified is the term. You're wide range of people that you can sell to.
Yeah, for sure.
So through all that of helping people and helping them make decisions, do you sometimes find yourself losing your own style that you have? Do you have a style that you have?
Yeah, I do. And that's, in my house I have a big deal is I think you always got to stay within the parameters of your house style.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love mid-century modern. I have a 90s colonial. So I can only go so far with that,
Yeah.
Like your house is on a farm, like be awesome to do like farmhouse style because it's actually a farm, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people I think jumped on that farmhouse bandwagon and had maybe not that style of home.
It doesn't necessarily fit for where they're at.
Yeah. So I like taking the integrity of the home wherever I'm at and sticking to it, but also bringing in what they like. So back to your question, have I lost my style? I don't know, but it's always changing.
Yeah, it's always changing. That's cool. So
not for Shane.
well, that's the next question is if it's ever changing, like how many times have you redone your own home?
Oh,
I know that like before we built the house, I redid my own place 2 times because I'd make something. I'd be like, well, I'm sick of that now.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. And she's already talking about redoing the house we just built. So
that's awesome.
How many times have you done that to yourself and to Shane?
Well, we always, when we bought our house, it was awful. It was like, it had been not abandoned. It was an ugly divorce. So they weren't in it for years.
Ah, gotcha.
So we got in and kind of like took it down to the studs, which was really cool. So we've kind of been, over the last 10 years since we've been there, we've kind of taken room by room. We had to make a lot of big decisions in the beginning, but then I would say we've probably changed each room at least now twice. My family room probably 3 times. But with that being said, I always keep the same furniture. I might change out like end tables or artwork,
Gotcha.
But like my couches, I had the same couches for 10 years. I've had the same dining room table for 10 years. We bought it when we first moved in.
Gotcha.
But the big stuff, I always try to stay classic anyway, because I know I won't get sick of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's why like black is always such a popular color
Always.
with tables and things like that, because it's classic. It doesn't change.
Right.
It doesn't change. So talked about how you got started, doing stuff for yourself and then eventually for friends. When did you, like you said, you started an Instagram page. When was that official? When did you officially become Rine Revisions?
It was end of January of 2021. So I started it. I kept it private for 2 weeks, and I posted every day. And then I had my close friends look at it and really give me some good advice.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want you to be as critical as you can be. What you think, is this good content? Would you read this? I mean, my friends are like me. You're my, target audience here.
Yeah.
So, and I got a lot of great advice. Like one of my friends said, you got to edit your photos. I didn't know that. You got to make sure they're brighter, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would always have Shane. I'm a woman of many words, and so I would have Shane read all of my posts beforehand and then like condense them down to like a fourth of what they were, maybe smaller, which was good. He's good at like kind of reining me in. But honestly, I think it was just more word of mouth. We've been in the same community for a long time, so people have known me. So when I was kind of surprised she reached out to me. Like immediately, I posted it when I went live. I had people that I've never even thought of. Yeah, contacted me.
So you went live in 2021, right? Is that what you just said? 2021. But before that, you already had what I call groundswell. You already had people talking about what you were doing, who knew who you were. And word of mouth was happening. People were going into other people's houses and seeing the work that you'd done for them, and they were waiting for you, to go out and be like, all right, I'm doing this.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I originally was just going to do like a DIY page on Instagram, and then I realized that I wanted to have something tangible for somebody to look at my website and say, hey, okay, I can actually have Jess come out there, because that was the biggest thing. What if someone comes in and says, I want you to come out, and I wasn't planning for that.
Yeah.
So we put together just kind of like a pricing schedule, and it was real cheap in the beginning just to get in the door, get photos, get experience. I mean, honestly, to get experience.
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of, I would always work with like friends and family, but a complete stranger, was really new. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I've said before was when you're first starting out, you're really willing to get out there and try a lot of stuff that's not necessarily in your wheelhouse. But just to get your name out there and, like you said, build a portfolio, and that seems to be a very common theme for a lot of small business owners. Is at the beginning you're really trying to get yourself out there. So that's cool to hear that it was kind of the same thing for you.
And I think it's easier now than it is. I tell people all the time. They say, "Oh, I wish I could do start what you do," and I say, "Well, then do it." One thing I think you're the same way. I feel like if we looked at your page 2 years ago. There might be some different styling that you maybe have changed, but like for the most part, you're the same, right? Like you haven't changed who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing is sometimes when I get overwhelmed or I think, I mean, we all do it. You're like, oh, I'm not that great. Why am I doing this? Kind of stuff. And I always go back to, okay, the core of why I started it. I started it to help people love their homes. Yeah. Am I doing that? Yes. Yeah. Does everyone love me? No. Are there going to be critics out there? 100%. And I've just had to learn to go, okay, but I've got a lot of these clients who do love what I do. So let's focus on that and just stick with it and not, sellout's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Just like, kind of just stick with who I am. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Because if you stick with who you are, then you're going to be in a place that you can bring a good product to your customers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Instead of trying to do something that's not necessarily what you're comfortable with, and then you end up falling short anyways with those customers because their expectations are outside of what you're comfortable doing. Yeah. I can see that for sure. And that's where, like you said, sometimes those tough customers knock you down a peg or two and make you question if you want to be doing it. But you push through that, right?
And I think they're always had one client very, very difficult. It was right in the beginning and very, very difficult. But I learned so much from that experience. I learned limits I needed to put on, boundaries I needed to establish. Because like we said, in the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Like you're just excited to like be out there.
Yeah.
But then, like then you realize, okay, I got to take it back a little bit and, maybe put some walls up so that I don't get abused. Kind of thing.
Exactly right. I've had those customers before. I actually went into a paint store one time to buy paint for a customer on a project we were working, and the person behind the counter said, they asked me for the job name and I said it, and they're like, "You poor son of a bitch." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You know this person?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we know this person." And I'm just like, "Oh boy, here we go."
Yeah.
And they wore me out. They wore me out good. And
it's funny you say that because I had somebody else say that after the fact. They were like, "Oh," they were like, "Yeah, we know what you went through."
You poor, kind of you poor person. But that's I guess kind of leads into the next one is like, what's the toughest job you've had? Like one that at the end of when you were done with it, you were like, wow, that really pushed me to my limits. Not necessarily as far as the customer service goes, trying to make this person happy, but like, what was the most challenging thing you were asked to do that when you got done, you're like, I'm awesome because I got that done?
Probably do a video for Hurtville Hardware. It's the most. I could never sounded more like an idiot every time I'm on this video. No, actually, I just finished a job in Bath. We did this bathroom. It's finished now, but there was time constraints. We wanted to get it done.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. Like, nothing ever goes to plan.
There's always
in construction.
Always.
Always. Things don't work out. And in the middle of it, I was actually supposed to wallpaper for them. And in the middle of it, I made the decision that I wasn't wallpapering anymore, which...
I saw that.
Yeah. And honestly, I was never supposed to do wallpaper. It's just one of those things I started doing for people. Again, in the beginning, I was trying to fill the hours. And, then all of a sudden it became this thing that was actually the worst part of my job. I hated it. It was stressful.
Yeah. It
was a lot of money for the client. So it put a ton of pressure on me that if they weren't satisfied. So anyway, I had to go to them and say, hey, I'm not wallpapering and we had to come up with plan B. And there were so many changes going on. They were wonderful. But I do this all the time. So I know all these hiccups that come along. When people come to me, they don't necessarily understand that. So one hiccup can set them over the edge. So I feel like a lot of times I've got to, say, hey, it's okay. We're going to get it done. Even if I have to paint the bathroom myself, it'll get done for this party. But that was one. We just finished it up and I was so excited because it was just, it all went smoothly.
It was a big challenge and you hit the time constraints.
Yes. And I told them the next project, there's no time. I don't want any time constraints. But they were wonderful. They were wonderful and totally understood that we were kind of up against it. So, we had realistic expectations, which is what I always try to establish with people is what's reality.
Super important to have realistic expectations. Yes. Yep. I'll have, for myself, you're making a big custom giant table or something, and I'll tell people, be like, hey, it's going to be 3 or 4 months. And they'll be like, oh, we need it in a month and a half. I'm like, well, that ain't going to happen. You can't speed the process up. And if you do, you're going to get a product that you don't like. So
have you ever had anybody not like the table when you delivered it?
No, I
really?
haven't.
No one's ever say, take it back?
No.
Halfway across the country.
I have never had that happen. I've had someone call me 6 weeks later and say, you know what, this isn't matched with our house. Can you come and get it?
Really?
Yeah. And then I gave them their money back and that was it. But
how far away were they, though? I mean, did you have to drive it far? Don't you drive some of yours really far?
It was in Cleveland.
Oh, so that wasn't as bad.
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. And there was an expectation thing there.
Yeah.
That I didn't. It's one of the things, like you said, you learned to set the expectations. I now know when somebody says they want something that looks like they got it from Pottery Barn, I tell them to go get it at Pottery Barn.
Right.
But so we talked about your most challenging or the most recent one. Is there a job that you can remember that was your favorite job to do?
Yeah, I have a client, the Berry property, and she knows I would talk about her, so I don't mind telling them. They are a wonderful family. And
berry as in like berry cheese?
No.
Or berry?
Berries.
Okay, berries.
Barry. But anyway, they were like a lot of my clients. They moved into their house and did a huge renovation that went sideways.
Oh,
The guy
okay.
ended up quitting. It was it was very traumatic for them. So for 4 years, she didn't touch the house. I mean, it was done and it looked nice. It had, it had nice colors on the walls. The kitchen was finished.
Okay.
Not a decoration in sight. So she would say how much she hates her home. This is this beautiful home that they have, and she hated being there. She'd make the kids lunches and go straight upstairs because she didn't want to look at anything. So she's probably been my favorite project because she cries every time we finish something, because she's just so happy to love her home. And we've been taking it. It's been almost a year that I've been working with them, and we just kind of knocked each room off as it comes. But so my favorite job for her was they went to Florida for a week, and their master bathroom was done. Didn't have mirrors. Like when I tell you, she just literally, it was so traumatizing what she went through. She just could not do it.
Yeah.
And she's a very successful person. So I think she'd come home and just feel like, man, I can't make my home something that I love. So anyway, she went out of town. I told her husband, we were doing their little girl's bathroom. And I said, hey, I'm going to do your bathroom. And he goes, okay. He's like, do you know what you're going to do? And I said, yeah, I got an idea. So, I did it without her knowing, and they came home and she, sobbed and was crying, and it's one of my favorite videos. I said, make sure you get her reaction. But just to help somebody have a space, especially when you have kids, like nothing's your own.
Yeah.
And to give her, and she would have, her bathroom would have been last on the list.
Yeah.
We still have other rooms that we're finishing. So it was fun to help her do something that she actually herself could enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. When that's... Like you said, you're trying to help people love their homes again, and she had fallen out of love with her home.
Yes.
Her home was not a place of rest,
mm-hmm.
but a place of anxiety because of what had happened, and you did that for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So somebody's getting ready to renovate their home. What advice do you have for them to get that process started?
So whenever I'm actually going to an appointment after this, they're going to redo their whole house. Again, I think expectations. What's your style? What do you like? I always tell my clients, get online, pick some images. Everyone loves to go on Pinterest. The problem is they don't know how to hone it in and bring it to life. So that's where I come in, and I'll say, send me some pictures of images that you like. Because I want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And that I know the direction they're going. Is it realistic? And then I say, come up with a realistic budget, knowing that we're probably going to go over it, but
yeah,
what's reality for you, right? Because I need to know that. I'm not going to send you a Pottery Barn couch for your living room if our budget is a Target budget or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's going to eat up the whole budget, you gotta know where to be.
And I've had clients. The clients that I have the most successful relationship with are the ones that are brutally honest with me, and I'm brutally honest with them. So I say, what do you want to spend? And they tell me, and then that's what you know what I mean? Then I give them options.
Yeah.
Problem is people will come in and I think they know I'm budget conscious and they'll try to do it as cheap as possible. But then we start realizing that they want more expensive. Well, I can't read your mind. Back to what we said earlier. Yeah.
They hem-haw around and they're nervous.
And then they're upset with me because I'm not giving them options they like. So again, I'm like, you got to tell me these things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you got to explain to me what you want.
Right, because the last thing I want to do too is, and this is where I think a lot of people have been burned by interior designers, is they'll have someone come in and they just want some ideas, and they'll come back and be like, oh yeah, this is going to cost $50,000, and their budget might be $10,000.
Yeah.
Right, and now they don't know how to hone that in, and I try to make it realistic. Okay, what can we do on your budget? What's
yeah,
and still make it a place you love. Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's a weird place that you get in as with what we do, on the custom furniture side and on the interior decoration renovation side, is that uncomfortable conversation with somebody be like, what is your budget? Like, and not making them feel judged because of what their budget is. Because everybody's personal journey is different. Everybody's income is different, but everybody has their style that they're looking for, and helping them find that. That's the difficult part. And, I have that same problem as people want to get stuff, but they're like, they convince themselves they can't afford anything from me. Or on the flip side, they convince themselves that what I'm doing is cheap and they can they can get.
You make it look easy.
Yeah.
I think I could pour anything on epoxy. After I've watched all your videos, I'm always like, all right, I need to get some epoxy and I'm going to just put it on something.
Yeah.
And that would probably be a disaster. I do know my limits.
Everything has its challenges. I can't hang wallpaper. But
either can I anymore. It's fine. Yeah.
But that's one of the tough things is to have that conversation with somebody and not make them feel judged.
Okay, so do you ever have? So Shane is always in charge when we get cars because my personality is to come in and be like, all right, guy, I can spend $5,000 on a car. Well, Shane would say, absolutely not, because you tell him you can pay $5,000. You're gonna get a payment for $499.99, right?
Correct.
So I'm always like, let's just hit me with the budget. Where I feel like a lot of, and mostly men, where it's like they don't want to tell me because if I tell Jessica we can spend $10,000 on this room, she's gonna spend $10,000, and I probably will. But and that's where I have the conversation. Some of my favorite clients end up being the husbands who come in and they're kind of scowling at me at first and they want to make sure they're at this appointment to keep everyone under control. And by the end, they realize that I'm actually going to listen to them and what their budget is. And then they're like, oh, okay. And my favorite thing to hear is the wife will text me and she'll say, Bob told me just whatever Jess wants, just do what Jess says. Yeah. And so that's always the best thing is turning someone's perception of interior design that like, this can be reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's another difficult thing on social media. You have people contacting you, and so often they're worried that you're going to rip them off.
Yeah.
And so they're so close, like they hold that budget close to the vest because they don't want to admit how much they're willing to spend because they think, like you said, you're going to be like, oh, your budget's $4,000. We're spending $4,125.
Right.
I'm going to take you just beyond it because, but that's one of the difficult things of that social media business is, and I think that's what you touched on earlier, is your social media, your Instagram is showing who you are as a person so that they know they can trust you.
On the flip side, I think sometimes people will hire me and have unrealistic expectations where they think I can come in and just, because they saw my reel and in 20 seconds, happen. I just totally, transformed this house.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll come in and want it either cheaper, because they think I'm going to be able to work magic. And sometimes they can, but very quickly I'm always like, okay, that's not possible.
Yeah, that's not possible.
Yeah, this is possible. That's not kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where you've had that maturation from when you started to where you're now. You know what you're good at. You know where you need to be at to be profitable because that is a part of it. A lot of people don't understand that as you are still trying to earn a living.
Right. And it's your time.
And it's your time. Well, and that was a question I was going to ask you is how much time do you put in on a day? I know for me what it's like where it's never stops.
Never.
Are you in that same place where you're just grinding all day long?
Yeah. I try to establish days that I'm out and then book those days where I'm actually out and about. But usually when I'm home, I'm answering text messages or doing research, and that's the other thing is I am such a people person that I become friends with my clients. So Shane freaks out because it's Friday night, and I've got somebody texting me about lamps, and I truly actually care about what lamp they choose. So I am invested in this decision. So, and again, it's not them being rude, and they would tell me, don't answer the text, Jess, if you're with your family. Yeah. The problem is I'm sitting there and I'm watching a show and I'm like, yeah, I'll answer this. So sometimes I do just have to put my phone down. And that's the other thing. Like when your business is on your phone and it goes everywhere you are. I mean, you know how it is. You pick up your phone to answer a text and all of a sudden you're in a rabbit hole of 50 other texts, right?
You can't disconnect.
Right. So that's probably my biggest challenge is not always working or always thinking about work.
I have the same situation with Shauna, my wife. I'll answer texts late at night. I have customers on the West Coast, and
oh yeah, they're 3 hours behind.
It's 5 o'clock there. It's 8 o'clock here, and I'm answering texts, or even, I'll get hit at midnight sometimes, and it's difficult to be able to turn it off because you are a people pleaser. At the end of the day, you want to make your customers happy, and so I understand that for sure. So you touched on Shane, and he's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. So how does Shane feel about Rine Revisions and being a part of that too?
So on one end, he loves it because, like you asked earlier, how often do I change my house? And I truly love all different kinds of styles. I love walking into someone's home and they don't want white walls. They want purple and they want to go, like, to me, that's a challenge and I love it. Like, if we're going to go crazy, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes that, what's the word? Like, artistic edge out of me because I'm doing it all day now on someone else's budget.
Yeah.
Where it used to be I'd sit around when I stayed at home, I'd sit there and look at that same table for 5 hours, and then I'd be like, how can I change that? Now I'm not home very often because I'm always working, but I'm also using my brain with other people's ideas and stuff. So it kind of, he does love that part. I get to go shop for people all the time. So it kind of like gives you that feeling of satisfaction that you went shopping, but
you feed that shopping bug.
Yeah, I feed that shopping. Or the deals. Like getting a deal for somebody is always my favorite. And then telling them about it and they don't really care as much as me, but I'm like, but can you believe it? But no, he loves it. Like I said, I think he wishes I could turn it off a little bit more, but, he's like me. We're not idle people. We don't, on the weekends, everyone's like, oh, don't you guys ever relax? No, actually we don't. Like we'd prefer to do a project or, he loves home stuff too. So
it's a good marriage.
Yes. Well, that's a loaded question.
Figuratively and literally, as far as he's interested in the same sort of stuff. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And Shane, the best thing that Shane has done for me is he brings the business side. Like he helped me set up and made it look professional from day one. He encouraged me to get a logo professionally done. Just stuff that in the beginning that I didn't want to spend any money or whatever. But he did the website. He's just good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's a good balance for me, right? He could read like again, I was stressed out about wallpaper and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm never doing, I'm not doing anybody ever again. And I was talking about the whole company. I was getting ready to just.
Yeah.
And he looks at me, he goes, just don't hang wallpaper. And I was like, okay. I go, can I do that? And he's like, you were never supposed to hang wallpaper. He goes, Jessica, when you walk into a house and someone wants to paint their bathroom, he goes, you don't paint it. And I go, you're right. And it was like 25 pounds lifted off my shoulders. And I go, oh. So that's where a lot of times he takes me stressing out and he'll go, brings me down to ground level.
Such a simple thought.
Yes.
I didn't think of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I understand that. It's funny that you said that now that you're working so much that the home projects have kind of slid to the back burner. It's a similar thing for me.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Yeah. So busy. I've got a slew of things to do at the house. But there's always, every once in a while, you get one for yourself. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, I got to do that. I'm going to do that right now because that's cool because I could post about that and show people what I'm capable of. Do you have any projects in your house like that you're like particularly
right
proud of? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I have a table I'm working on that I completely stained. I stripped down. It was a nightmare. I always think wood is like I always think I figured it out.
Yeah.
Now I've done so many projects. This is the wood project. It's going to be so easy for me. I'm going to sand it. It's going to come right off. It's all going to go according to the plan. And it never does. So I stained it and now I'm restripping it right now because I hate it. And Shane helped me carry it in the house. It was so heavy. I was like, well, let me see it in the house. Maybe I'll like it then. And then the next day it's in the garage half stripped again. And he's like, what happened to the table? He's like, what? I liked that color. And I was like, no, it's awful. Don't even look at it. So my projects never go according to plan. Ever.
Yeah, they never do.
Never.
They never do. It makes me feel a little bit better because I'll get projects in the house and be like, yeah, that's awesome. And my wife will tell me it's terrible. Make me redo
it. That's great.
So it must be a thing there to help push our levels apparently. Maybe to
strengthen our marriages too,
right?
Yeah,
strengthen the marriage. That's right. How do you feel from an expectation standpoint? How has Instagram and Pinterest and those instantly available things changed interior design?
Oh, geez. Well, I think and people talk about this all the time, and not even with interior design, is that an image is put out there for you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you probably got on it a little bit before I did. And then I got on and it wasn't that many people. Now it's saturated, right? Everybody is trying to get, everybody wants to work from home. Everybody wants to have their own business. And the problem is I think there's a lot of not reality out there, right? Like they show one room.
Taking pictures from a specific angle that look perfect.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, and I think people struggle with that because I think there's a lot of, and that's what I try to get away from, and we've talked about this too, like getting deals and, I never want people to get on my page and feel like I'm bombarding them with something to buy. You got to buy this to be happy. You got to, because that's a lie, right? I mean, and sometimes I kind of even have to reel it back because I get deals, and some people, this is a struggle for them.
Yeah.
And they'll buy anything. So I feel like social media is wonderful. It's free advertising. You can put yourself out there, but I also feel like there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and I think a lot of people struggle with it. So I think that kind of like weighs on me sometimes of what I'm going to post.
It makes things more difficult.
Yes.
Yep. And that's for me, for instance, I like to, when I first got started out, everybody was just posting those finished pictures.
Yeah.
Hey, here's what it is. I like to show the process.
Sure.
And I know that not everybody likes to see that. I've had people tell me, like, why are all your videos about process? And there's like one picture of a finished thing for 20 pictures of it being made. Well, it takes those 20 pictures to make it, and you need to see the process.
Right. And it shows value of you too.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like one thing that you do well is I see, okay, I can't do that. Right? If I'm going to get a table like this, it's going to be from Ben because I can't make this because you've been real about what goes into it.
Yeah.
Right? There's,
and even professionals struggle. There's still those moments where it doesn't go right.
Right.
Shit goes sideways, and all of a sudden I tell it all the time when I'm doing the epoxy demos that, first few times I had $400 of epoxy on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's the important part to show that. And I think that, you do that on your Instagram, and that's part of people trusting you.
Well, and that's one thing I actually stopped. I was doing Wallpaper Wednesday because I had so much footage.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is something I could do every week because I'm really bad about posting and being on a schedule. And so I would post it and people would go, man, Jess, you make it look easy. You make it look easy. And my thought is I approach everything like, oh, I can do that. I could do that. Like, that's easy.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was putting it out there that it was really easy and that anybody can do it. So people are spending all this money on wallpaper, and then, to hire me is not cheap because it is hard. I guess I realized that I'm making this product look so easy, and it's actually not. And I talked to a few installers who do regular wallpaper. They go, we won't touch this stuff. They go, you can't maneuver that. And all the struggles I had been having with it kind of was validated. I go, oh, you're right. So I still think it's a fun product to work for, but I don't know that it's the DIY project that I would suggest to people.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a smaller area but just to go do a whole room or even a whole wall, if you don't have help, it's hard. So that's where I kind of was like, okay, I got to make sure that maybe people don't go out and buy something based on what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it is hard. You know what I mean? Now they're stuck with it and they're out of money.
Yeah. Clearly those people never had to help their parents do a renovation. I've had to hang wallpaper, and it sucks. It's terrible.
I hate hanging the real stuff. It's such a mess.
I had to help my mom, because I'm tall, hang wallpaper on the ceiling. You want to talk about some miserable shit.
Listen, that's come back in, and people are like, oh, you can do a ceiling? Never. Have you ever painted a ceiling? I'm like, it's the worst.
It's the worst.
Why would I want to wallpaper it? Yeah. Oh, pay somebody good money to do it because they're earning big bucks for that.
All right. So a few more questions, and then we'll let you be done for the day. But so you started in 2021. What is your 5-year vision for Rine Revisions? What are you looking to do in the next 5 years? What are your goals?
Man, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I struggled with this question too when Titus asked me.
Yeah. I don't know. Right now it's going so well, and I have such a steady client base that I would probably just keep where I'm going. Like right now I can control my schedule. You know, people always say, oh, you guys want to be on HGTV, and I sure don't. Like I really value my time with my kids and my my husband, and I need downtime because I am so go that if I don't have those like moments at home at the end of the night, I start getting frazzled, and then I'm no good for anybody. But so I think I would like to. Oh, is that a business plan to stay where you're at? Right now, I'm really enjoying it. That's what I'm saying. If I could, I would like to make a little bit more money online somehow. I keep saying, I'm like, how can I make money without leaving my house or having, to do much without selling out? But so there's always that balance. But I think it would just be kind of just what I'm doing and staying with it because it seems to be doing well, right? I have not gone viral. I went viral on TikTok, and that about put me over the edge. So I don't know that necessarily. I think that's kind of your goal because Instagram's pushing. That's what you see all these videos. You're like, oh, this one. You almost get that. You post a reel and you get 5 views, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you post one, you get 500, and you're like, oh, okay. Now I'm going.
You're wanting that dopamine hit.
Yeah, and it is. And you start going, oh, again, what we talked about earlier. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Or did I do something? And maybe it just wasn't the right time. I don't know.
Maybe it's one to touch on Instagram and TikTok for that matter. It's so frustrating because, like for me, for instance, it's funny. The videos that I'm really, really excited about that I spend a lot of time putting together and like I think it out and I'm like, man, this would be awesome. I'm going to do this. And I do it and they just flop.
I know.
Absolutely flop. And then I'll shoot a video. It'll take me 2 minutes from start to finish with editing and music and everything. And the one right now, I think I'm at like 160,000 views.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, that video sucks.
And if you tried to recreate it, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like
exactly
you're like, oh,
right.
I'm going to do that again. And then it flops,
Yeah. And that's a frustration, I'm sure.
It's character building, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to keep you humble, right?
Yeah. Need to knock down those pegs. But so but that's cool that you're happy with where things are at. But I mean, it's not that you don't want to grow. You want to grow at a controlled level to where you can't where you don't lose what's important.
Yeah. So this is kind of a sidebar. I think it was who's one of those, the white hair guy that got really popular with Dolly Parton. He's huge. I think he just died.
White hair guy with Dolly Parton.
Huge.
Do you not listen to the music that I post on my reels?
I do listen to your music.
I barely know who Dolly Parton is.
Anyway, he's somebody who's huge. I'm gonna later on we're gonna find out who it is.
Like huge, like fat, or like huge,
like was huge in the 70s. And his whole point, like, okay.
Colonel Sanders. He's got white hair.
I'm gonna find it. Anyway, he said they asked him about American Idol years ago. They said, what do you think why so many people don't? I mean, if you watch those shows, there's a ton of talent on there. Like, how do they not all make it? And he said the key to success is the slow, gradual.
Slow burn.
Yes. And I do think with social media, these people will go viral or they'll go and they'll all of a sudden, they're not equipped for it.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, that's one thing I always pray about. Like, I want to have what I'm equipped for and what I can handle.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want the value of my product to go down. And that has happened recently, just people trying to contact me because they're used to contact me all the time and I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was answering everybody's text right away. So now I have to like sit down and actually go through but anyway, I always remember that. Kenny Rogers. That was it. Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers.
I knew it'd come to me.
The gambler.
The gambler. He said that was his point though. I think that we're, it's just like anything. You work for it. There's a process. You learn from the failures, you learn from the successes.
Yeah.
And if you only had one success, you wouldn't learn as much.
Yeah.
So
my dad always says to me anytime I get frustrated, he says, Bennett, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
That's true.
So you gotta put that foundation in before you can
absolutely
build your career. Because if you don't have that, then it's just gonna fall apart. That's I mean, how many people have seen Behind the Music?
Oh, yeah.
The one hit wonders who just fizzle out like that. Look at Hanson. They all got their haircut and nobody knows who they are now. So
You haven't seen them on TikTok? They're 2.0. They're making a comeback, by the way. Okay.
I'm not on TikTok.
Oh, that's right. You're not on TikTok.
Yep, not at all. Not at all. Now, speaking of music, music's a big part of my day.
Yeah.
I'm always listening to music. And I had fully intended to ask everybody their favorite songs to work to, and Titus dropped that bomb on me. I don't think he knew that I was going to do that. So I'd like to know, what are your top 5 songs that if you put them on, you're going to get super motivated that day? Or like if you're in a bad mood and you put that stuff on and you're going to work through it. What are your top 5 songs for that, for working?
You're going to laugh. One of my favorites, and I love doing reels to it, is the whole album, ABBA Gold, not Dancing Queen.
ABBA? Gold. Okay.
The album Gold, ABBA Gold, and not Dancing Queen. Shane always laughs. I never liked the biggest hit that a group had. I always like, the B-side.
Well, that makes you a real fan.
Yes.
Is when you like the other songs.
And I've never even seen Mamma Mia, which was like, everyone's like, oh, he would love it. And I hate it. I started watching it and I was like, nope. But like when someone posts something about that, or like anything in like the 80s and 90s, like Guns N' Roses, you post Guns N' Roses, I feel like.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's always like one to like pump me up. Okay, that's 2. Okay, yeah. Guns N' Roses. I do like Pearl Jam, but that's more sad, so no. Right now, I like Meghan Trainor.
I don't know why.
She's like a good. We put her on, and like that kind of gets me out of my. If I'm in a funk, just like get moving.
Yeah.
It's upbeat. It's pretty light.
That's the whole point of music, is to get you upbeat and moving again.
I know, but like
I think
there's some music. I feel like in my early 20s, I wanted to be like sad. Like I would listen to depressing music.
Lithium. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So what is that, 3 or 4?
That's 3.
Oh, anything. Oh my gosh. I don't know. My favorite station is like Pop 2K. I love, Pop 2K or 90s on 9. I love them all. It's just like become a plug. I can't do one song. I'm just telling you, there are all these songs that like come out and like I love all of them. Not country. Shane loves country. I just
can't do it, huh?
I like Miranda Lambert. I love her. Actually, she'd be my 3rd one or my 4th one.
That's 4. All right. Miranda Lambert.
Christmas. Miranda Lambert, and then definitely like Supremes.
The Supremes.
Diana Ross.
Nice.
Yeah, or Otis Redding, anything like that. Yeah.
That old
then I get
Motown
60s.
stuff.
Oh yeah, Motown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there
I love some Motown for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. People wouldn't think that about me because of all the heavy stuff I listen to, but I got Motown on my playlist. You betcha. Aretha Franklin, Supremes.
I love Aretha Franklin.
Oh yeah.
I forgot. See now I start thinking. I do love it. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a hard question.
That is a hard question. I struggled with it hard. See, I struggled with it because I have so many songs.
Right.
He asked me my top 5.
I don't think I can name top 5 songs. What were yours?
Let me remember. You got to listen to the other podcast.
I got to listen. I'm on it.
So I guess that's the one thing that we didn't talk about is somebody out there trying to start their own business. That's the whole point of this, is to talk to people who've, hung it out there and done something, taken that chance on themselves. What do you feel that in you made it to where you were able to do that?
I think I chose something that I actually really was passionate about. Something that I like thinking about, something I like researching that doesn't feel like work, right? So like when you said, how often do I work all the time because I'm thinking about it. That's where my brain goes. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there that people are getting into that they think it's going to be a quick buck, or that they can be successful. And I think I would stick, especially if you're going to do Instagram or something. It's got to me now, as saturated as it is, it's got to be authentic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people are, I think people are getting a little bit more stingy about who they follow, right? Where I feel like,
definitely.
I feel like years ago, everyone just followed. And now it's like, it's too bogged down. So they want to just see things they want to see. I'm that way. I've started unfollowing some things that I just don't want to see anymore. So it's like,
Yeah.
let's edit this through. If I've got 10 minutes to sit down and get on Instagram. So that's what I would say. I would say keep it authentic. If it's something that you feel like is that you're posing, then you probably are, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's not. And the other thing is listen to the people around you. If no one tells you you're a good singer, then you're probably not a good singer, right? Like people who are good singers, everyone is like, oh my gosh, have you heard so-and-so? Or sing this for us.
As long as they're not family members, because they'll tell you.
Exactly. But even that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what gave me the nudge at the end of the day was people. I asked some really, I know people that would have told me, Jess, don't do it. Like, Jess, there's too many out there. Or, and everyone I came across said, you got to do this. You got to do this. And then I did it and things just I kind of listened to the audience too, right? Yeah. Like if no one's listening and no one's commenting and no one's interested, then maybe no one's interested. Is that too harsh to say?
No, that's not too harsh to say. That is one thing that a lot of small businesses don't hear.
Yeah.
You see some really terrible business ideas and you're like, has nobody told them how terrible an idea that is?
And not that you shouldn't try it.
Not that you shouldn't try it, but just that like sometimes you need that honesty. Somebody needs to tell you that honestly, be like, hey, maybe I can't even think of a terrible business idea, but I've seen them out there where you're like, really? That's what you're putting your money into, huh?
Right. And if no one's actually asking that's the other thing. If no one's asking your advice about that particular subject,
then nobody trusts you.
Right. Or they don't value your opinion.
Yeah.
Whereas I had people asking me over and over, hey, Jess, can you help me do this? Can you help me do this? What color paint? What color this? So I did know that there was validity to it. Because gotcha. I wasn't before this. I'm still not. I don't post a lot on my personal stuff. I just don't really want to put it out there. So it was a huge jump to go onto social media and then all of a sudden in front of my small town friends and everybody be like, oh, hey guys, I think I'm Joanna Gaines. That's the biggest fear in my head is that everyone's going to be talking about me saying, who does she think she is?
Yeah.
And I think they still are.
Because you got to sell yourself.
Absolutely. And you have to show value. So, and again, I never want someone to think, oh my gosh, she's so full of herself. She thinks she's great. I really don't. At the end of the day, I think I'm probably crap, but then I just keep going. I wake up the next day and I'm in a better mood and I'm like, all right, let's try it again.
I struggle with people telling me I did a good job. I'll deliver something too and I'll be like, yeah. They're like, that's beautiful. I'm like, yeah, I think it's cool too. But it's not really, all I see is my mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been told time and time again, just say thank you and smile and walk away.
Yes.
Instead of being like, actually, right there and right there, I screwed up. But, yeah.
And now put it in your house. now enjoy.
Now try and unsee that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that too. If I see an imperfection or something, unless it's something I know we can fix, but just being like.
It just goes back to the perfectionism part of it where you can't help yourself. And
yes,
that's, I think one of the things that drives you is that perfection to make somebody love their home and help them with that. So last question is, you had said earlier that you have to have at the end of the day or at some point in the day, you got to be able to unplug or you're going to be frazzled. So what do you do to unplug? Is it a glass of wine on the couch? Or is it watching a movie, bubble bath? I mean, what is it? Hot shower? What do you do to relax? Is it Shane giving you a back rub for half an hour?
Right. Yeah, right. It's honestly just hanging out with my family. I got 3 girls, so they've got a lot on their mind. They'll distract me real quick. I'm not a great player, with my kids.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
But we watch movies. Right now we're watching they're old enough to do all the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So, they're a little old for them, but it's exciting because it's a movie we want to, finally we're out of bubble guppies. We can actually watch something we all care about.
Something that's not mind numbing. Yeah.
So, that would be, Shane and I have always done that. We get done with our day and it used to be we put the girls down and then we would watch our shows, whatever show we're watching,
Yeah.
And now I feel like that's what we do is we, because it's summer, they're up till whenever, but
yeah.
Or I walk around my house and change stuff around. Drive myself crazy. So no, that's obviously not relaxing, but yeah. And sitting outside. When it's nice out, I just want to be outside.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
I'm usually weeding or, again, usually I'm walking around doing something. I just like to be outside if I can.
So either watching some movies with the kids or shows with Shane or
a project.
Or manual labor.
Don't you find that you, or manual. That's the truth though. Do you find that you work through things in your like your head when you're doing projects?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I project the fact that I'm angry all the time. But by the end of the day, I'm pretty chill because I've been able to work through whatever, fix the problems in whatever the project is, or, whichever one of the kids is causing a problem that day, or whatever it is, whatever the problem may be. If you find an angry woodworker, they're not very good at what they do, because you want to talk about some quiet time.
Yeah.
It's
sure.
Doing that stuff and achieving goals when you're doing work, man, that's good for your soul, getting stuff done.
I think, you joked about manual labor, but I do think working with your hands, creating something, doing something,
Absolutely.
And taking your brain off. I feel like sometimes I work more issues out when I'm thinking about something else than I do, you know what I mean, than actually thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. When I had an office job working for FedEx, I hated life.
Mm-hmm.
I was good at what I did, but I hated life.
I believe it.
Now, like, it feeds my soul to be out there and working with your hands, creating. Because at the end of the day, you can walk into a house and be like, I did that. Mm-hmm. And they love it. Yeah. And that's extremely rewarding. Extremely rewarding. And I think...
And then put it to a good song, and now you got a reel.
Yeah.
See, I always tell people too, most of the reels are for me. Like, it's because I've come across a song and it makes me laugh, or it makes me like pump,
Yeah.
And I want to see it. Like, so if I don't want to see it, then I don't post it.
Yeah.
Right.
I show it to my kids, and if they're like, that sucks, Dad, I won't put it out there. But
yeah.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
cool.
Jess, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for talking about what your journey was, and hopefully we inspire somebody with your story. They give it a shot.
Yeah.
If they're thinking about whether it's interior decorating or if it's something else, they hear your story and they take that chance.
Yeah, for sure.
They take that chance. Jess, if somebody wants to get hold of you after hearing this and they're thinking about doing interior decorating in their house, if they want to get hold of you to do a job, how do they do that?
Oh, I think the best way is to go onto Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
rine_revisions.com. Rine, yeah, it's Rine Revision. Grief. Yeah, I think Instagram is what I think I put the most out there, like of
Gotcha.
What my day-to-day is, in stories and stuff. Facebook, I just post, but
yeah.
And then I have a website, which we're in the process of updating, but.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty much an open book. I tell people they want to know cost, they want to know pricing. I never want to hide any of that from somebody. Even if they just want to talk through it with me, I'm happy to talk about it.
Awesome. So Instagram is the place to go, rine_revisions, if you want to get hold of Jess. Really want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in today. Be sure to check out Jess on Instagram. And also myself, Ben Crawford, Red Barn Home Furnishings. My Instagram handle is red_barn_home. You can also check out the website, redbarnhomefurnishings.com. Really, really thankful for everybody to listen today, and tune in next time. We're going to have another great small business owner talk about flowers and the incredible journey that they had.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. God bless everybody. Have a great day.